Good evening. Hi, Carl Steinbeck here. Just want to jump on. I wasn't going to jump on tonight, but I decided to come on just to talk about this hearing tomorrow. And I've been thinking more about this affidavit that we discussed last night that was filed in the Aiden Kearney case. And it has a lot of connections to this case with Karen Reed. And I see also that we have a motion that's been filed for discovery. And let's see here. I'm going to show that motion by the defense team for Kearney. All right, so this motion here notes that they do cite the Rule 14. They cite the 5th and 14th Amendment of the Constitution, Article 12 of the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights, which would follow similar to the Bill of Rights. And then Brady v. Maryland, I mentioned that last night. That's a 1963 case. It's a landmark case having to do with the duty to turn over exculpatory evidence to the defense. That's a prosecution burden that case law established. There's other case law that was followed that. The Giglio case came out in 72 from the Supreme Court as well, and then a Kyles v. Whitley. But Brady v. Maryland and Giglio v. U.S., those are two of the main cases you hear about discovery requirements for prosecution offices. And if they fail to comply with this established case law, then it can result in the case being dismissed. And here, what the defense is doing here, they're citing that they made 3 demands for order to end or require discovery concerning a civilian, Catherine Peter, who, on information and belief, is working as an agent for the Commonwealth in prosecutions against Kearney and Karen Reed. And listen to this here. Although our first demand was made more than 6 months ago, the prosecution has neither provided defense with any of the required discovery nor indicated that none of the requested items or information are within the possession or control of the prosecutor, the prosecuting officer, or any member of the prosecution team. So, and then it goes on to say, indeed, and it cites the Rule 14. And then it says here, indeed, the prosecution hasn't responded to any of the demands at all to any of the demands made in the October 8th, 17th, and March 29th letter demands, all of which describe in great detail the good faith basis. Our belief is that the prosecution is possession of the evidence that requires disclosure. So here you have it, Mark Betterow, along with the co-counsel Timothy Bradel. They filed this April 24th. And they recite a lot of the stuff that we covered last night that was in that affidavit. But what's important to note here is that he's saying they do have a good faith basis for believing that this is something that is accurate and truthful, and that they believe the prosecution has this information. So for the prosecution not to say anything in 6 months, if this wasn't true, folks, the prosecution would summarily reject it. All right, that's the way it should work. So why are they not responding to this request for information on this informant, social media / stalker harasser that they hired out, Catherine Peter? That's what a friend of Catherine Peters is saying. So why did they just summarily said, we don't know what you're talking about, we don't know who this person is, other than the fact she's a criminal defendant, and those assertions you made are completely false and without merit. No payments have been made to her. She's not involved in any way, shape, or form. The prosecution office. That is something that takes 30 seconds to type up, stick it in a response, and send it back over to the defense. They have not done that. That's very much a clue that there is legitimacy to this affidavit. May not be all truthful, but why can't you say what is truthful and what isn't truthful. The fact they don't say anything at all, it's really shocking. Now, Kearney's case is not scheduled for trial, but this is one that's coming up for trial here with Karen Reed, and they have a duty to disclose this information. If any of this is true, especially about this Miss McCabe, so what they have here is Ms. Peter further told the witness that Ms. McCabe was told that the Commonwealth can simply subpoena her. She implied that if her demands were not met, we would alter her testimony in a manner designed to harm the Commonwealth's case against Ms. Reed. So, and then that's the other point there, that Ms. Peter further admitted to the witness, the one that signed the affidavit, that on March 16, 2025, she met with Ms. McCabe and the DA Morrissey in Braintree, and when the witness saw Ms. Peter shortly thereafter, Ms. Peter had a manila envelope with her. So that's what we saw in the affidavit. So he's reciting the affidavit. And then it has a footnote here. The word "we" has a footnote here. It says, on information and belief, Ms. McCabe use of the word "we" means that in addition to herself, other key prosecution to whom she's close with would also not testify favorably for the prosecution unless Ms. Kearney was in jail. And then it goes on to say under footnote 4, it's under, after DA Morrissey, there's a footnote 4 there before it says in Braintree. It says that the prosecution still hasn't complied fully with its obligation to provide any discoverable electronic communication from representatives of the DA's office, including DA Morrissey, and witnesses against Mr. Kearney. Interesting how we hear all this grandstanding by Hank Brennan talking about he's worried about ambush, and they're trying to sneak stuff in at the last minute in Karen Reed's trial, talking about the defense, and yet he's not even complying with rudimentary open file discovery requirements according with Rule 14. So it's all just a matter of they can do all this song and dance for the judge and make it out like the defense is so much in violation of Rule 14, and yet the prosecution doesn't have to comply with anything because they know they got a free pass from this judge. So now here it goes on to say on page 4, based on the information provided by witnesses' sworn statement and the contents of our 3 previous letter demands, there is a strong reason to believe that there exists discoverable information and material in the Commonwealth's possession, custody, and control, whether the Kearney or Reed prosecution team, related to Ms. Peters' involvement with the Commonwealth and or witnesses who will testify against Mr. Kearney. The prosecution also has a duty to inform each member of the prosecution team whom he has reason to believe may be in possession, custody, or control of discoverable items, information, and then to inquire of each person as to the existence of such items or information. That's what the Rule 14.2 alpha says. Thus, at a minimum, the prosecutor must address these issues raised in the affidavit and letter demands with DA Morrissey, Hank Brennan, Adam Lally, Laura McLaughlin, Ms. Peter, Ms. McCabe, Kenneth Mello, Brian Tully, and John Fanning. And then in the next paragraph says, any discoverable evidence must then immediately be collected and promptly disclosed to the defense. That's in accordance with the rule. This, of course, requires prompt disclosure of any evidence that the Reed prosecution team has in their possession, custody, or control, which adversely impacts the credibility of any witness against Mr. Kearney, otherwise favors him or cast doubt on the case against him. They cite the Rule 14b as well as this Giglio v. United States case from 1972. And it says the Commonwealth's disclosure obligation to Mr. Kearney remains irrespective of any purported view of the evidence's reliability, credibility, or admissibility, and without regard to whether the information has been documented in any manner. So the prosecution under these rules and under the Constitution is not allowed to say, well, we didn't really believe this information. We didn't think the information, if credible, we realized it would help the defense, but we just don't make the determination that it's credible. We find it's not credible, and so we're not going to turn it over to you. They're not allowed to do that under the constitutional framework and Supreme Court law. You have to turn it over as a prosecutor, any kind of information that could adversely affect the credibility reliability or admissibility of any information in any witness. So they've already violated this rule by promptly not disclosing that. And now, since it's been 6 months. And then it goes on to say here, in other words, where the subject matter is discoverable, the prosecution must promptly disclose any information derived from conversations or interviews between or among Ms. Peter, the relevant witnesses against Mr. Kearney, and any members of the Kearney and Reed prosecutions team, even if it was not memorialized in any way. So this so-called meeting, I mean, if Morrissey was that clueless to go up there and meet with Jen McCabe and also have this Catherine Peter there, where's that memorialized? Who's a witness now? So Morrissey's now made himself a witness to Karen's case. So what we see here also back on page 2, Betterow, the attorney, is talking about how this, based on this affidavit, and talking to this Catherine Peter, there's regularly scheduled meetings with the Reed prosecutors. She received monthly payments in exchange for doing basically a smear campaign against Kearney and Karen. She's received items of value from Jen McCabe. She's in essence granted de facto immunity from prosecution in exchange for her assistance to the Commonwealth. Supposedly she has a couple of criminal charges outstanding or contempts of court. She's also destroyed her cell phone. She's admitted her intent to start rumors about Kearney, purported harassment to jurors to further the Commonwealth's, which was unsuccessful effort to ban Kearney from covering the case. Uses her social media platform to help Commonwealth circumvent the gag order in the Reed case. I mean, this is serious stuff that is being alleged. Stalked and harassed and spied on Mr. Kearney, Ms. Reed, one of Reed's attorneys and supporters, Ms. Reed. I mean, this looks so and sounds so over the top, absolutely outlandish and crazy for any prosecutor to do this. But as I've said, the only way they can convict Karen Reed is to hide the truth from the jury. And that's what we've seen day in, day out from this prosecution team. It's gotten way worse with Hank Brennan. And now the wheels are starting to come off this bus. In fact, this whole bus is going to cream out of control, because I think, from my experience dealing with corrupt prosecutors, the case should have never made it to a jury to begin with. And now that it is before a jury, this kind of stuff, I think, is going to continually come out of the woodwork. I think there's going to be so many surprises, twists, and turns on this case, so many scandals that are going to erupt. It's all going to be pointing back at the prosecution team. And what's a judge going to do about it? If Judge Canoni was smart about it, she'd see a sinking ship and it's about to blow up in her face too, all these scandals. And what she would do is start playing by the rules and giving defense opportunity to flesh this out, holding the prosecution's feet to the fire, not letting them get away with these discovery violations. Now the Aiden Kearney case is not before her. That's with a different judge, but I'm curious to see how soon it will take for Karen's attorneys to file a similar motion like this. I mean, they're in the middle of trial, and if this was not disclosed, this should shut down the whole trial. If this is true, that Jen McCabe was saying this, making these kind of demands, and that they're paying somebody to harass Karen and her defense team, this is so like third world scandalous. This is like Soviet type Gestapo tactics to try to intimidate people from cooperating. So the judge would be smart to not keep rubber stamping the prosecution's effort. So no, I'm not kidding, Ms. Holmes. I'm saying this is maybe her chance to realize, hey, I was willing to help step on the scale to help the prosecution, but you guys have gone wacko crazy now, and I'm not going to be a part of this racket anymore. So that's what I mean by that. This is so much going to bleed over into other witnesses, just as this motion talks about. Other witnesses are are basically in revolt. There's basically a mutiny created by Jen McCabe. So the very person that's creating a mutiny against the prosecution team, and it's a prosecution witness, is the same one that defense are alleging was helping organize this scandalous accusation against Karen to help protect people in the house at 34 Fairview. Christine, you're saying happenings in this case sounds so far-fetched, unbelievable. Yes, yet it's true. Every day I'm amazed by something that's never ending. So I'm just saying, from my experience, these things crash and burn. If we had a normal Constitution-abiding judge on this case, this thing would be dropped so fast. If it even got to, it wouldn't get to here. There would be many rulings that would be fair to the defense to get them the information they need. Instead, we got this goat rodeo circus tomorrow with ARCA being set up. I call it a setup by the judge and Brennan. So that's what we're looking at. I would say that the Constitution once again is going to come into play here. I think that's the gist of the motion there. But let me show you this. Let me walk you through some case law here. So this is the main one that's always cited in criminal law cases. The defense always says they want all of the prosecution's file. That includes Brady material. We just generically call it Brady material. Everybody knows what that is. And without going through much of the details of the case, I just want to go through some of the findings. And it says here in the green, we now hold that suppression by the prosecution of evidence favorable to an accused upon request violates due process where the evidence is material either to guilt or punishment, irrespective of the good faith or bad faith of the prosecution. Here, we have evidence as to the guilt, and it is material. Trust me, it is material. When you got a prosecution witness that's trying to create mutiny and get some kind of favors and trying to have other people arrested, and otherwise you're not going to cooperate fully with the prosecution, and you're getting other folks on board to try to create this mutiny. This is the allegation, mind you. I'm not saying we have ironclad proof that this happened. It's merely a affidavit in court of somebody that most of it's all hearsay. But the fact that the prosecution, like I say, has not responded to this is a strong indicator there's something they're hiding. It goes on to say here, the principle in Mooney v. Holohan, which is another Supreme Court case, is not punishment of society for misdeeds of a prosecutor, but avoidance of an unfair trial to the accused. Society wins only when the guilty are not only when the guilty are convicted, but when the criminal trials are fair. Our system in the administration of justice suffers when any accused is treated unfairly, like we've seen here day after day after day with Karen Reed. The inscription on the walls of the Department of Justice states that the proposition candidly for the federal domain, the United States wins its point whenever justice is done to its citizens in the court. A prosecution that withholds evidence on demand of an accused, which, if made available, would tend to exculpate him or reduce the penalty, helps shape a trial that heavily bears. And I can't read the rest here. Sorry. On the defendant. That casts the prosecutor in the role of an architect of a proceeding that does not comport with standards of justice, even though, as in the present case, his action is not the result of guile, to use the words of the Court of Appeals. And so basically, this is a case where it was reversed because the prosecutor, they found something years later in the file, and it was a confession of somebody else. They'd already got the hold on a second. This is Brady. All right, I'm going to go to Giglio next. Oh yeah, this had to do with the confession, and so anyway, If it's something material to the defense, you don't turn it over. Automatically, you're looking at getting the case reversed, and you should have a case sort of like what we saw in the Alec Baldwin case. You violate something, you should turn over to the defense, and judges will oftentimes just outright dismiss the case, just like we saw for Alec Baldwin. And that wasn't even as serious of a thing or as malicious of a thing. Here we have accusations that the prosecution is basically running a scam against the defendant, Karen Reed, and her lawyers, and paying somebody to do that, paying somebody to make up accusations of Karen Reed being guilty. I mean, this is so unbelievable. I have to see it to believe it. I cannot believe that'd be this bizarre and that insanely crazy to do this. But why won't they just go ahead and summarily respond to this request from Betterow and his other lawyer and just say, no, there's no truth to any of this. So that's what's really making me think they're ducking and running. They're hoping this whole thing can be stalled out until Karen Reed gets convicted. Let me go ahead and remove this one. I'm going to go ahead and add, this is another case here. This came out in, decided in 1972. Here, the petitioner was convicted of passing forged money orders and sentenced to 5 years. While on appeal, the defense counsel discovered new evidence indicating that the government had failed to disclose an alleged promise made to its key witness that he would not be prosecuted if he testified for the government. We granted certiorari to determine whether the evidence not disclosed such as to require a new trial under due process criteria, under one of them being Brady v. Maryland. Right, in this case, there was a cross-examination. Defense counsel rigorously cross-examined another a witness for the prosecution, and it talks about how they were given leniency to testify, and the prosecution had stated that there was nothing of leniency that was given to that witness. And here, there's an affidavit filed that said that basically the promise was made by one assistant that if he testified before the grand jury and trial, he would not be prosecuted. So in this particular case, it's very similar. You could argue there's comparisons that could be argued along the same lines of Jen McCabe. Jen McCabe is in a situation here. She wants some kind of favors to be made for her, and apparently she's got other witnesses lined up as well. If you believe this is true, that's being reported. And so apparently there was a conflict because one of the attorneys were not talking to each other. So the one that said there wasn't anything as to a leniency being offered to a witness when it in fact had. And it goes on to say that as long ago in another case, Mooney v. Holohan, this court made clear that deliberate deception of a court and jurors by the presentation of known false evidence is incompatible with the rudimentary demands of justice. Goes on to cite another Supreme Court case from 1942 and this McCabe v. Illinois from 1959. It said, we said this same result obtains when the state, although not soliciting false evidence, allows to go uncorrected when it appears. And then it goes on to cite Brady, how if you withhold material evidence, it justifies a new trial, irrespective of whether it's good faith or bad faith by the prosecution. And then it goes on to say here under footnote 4, the Hui affidavit, and that's in this Giglio case, standing alone contains at least an implication that the government would reward the cooperation of the witness and hence tends to confirm rather than the fruit the existence of some understanding of leniency. So here we don't have Jen McCabe facing any kind of prosecution, but the fact that she's demanding some kind of favorable treatment, I would argue, is something that automatically is covered under Brady and Giglio. And so if this has not been turned over and we're already beyond the first week of trial, this should automatically end this case. If we had a normal judge, if this is true, this would indicate case right away once they had a hearing on this. If the prosecution, they have to say that. If they can't get up and say, no, this is not true, none of this is actual reality, it's all fictitious. I mean, this is like a smoking gun, and it's gonna be really, really interesting to see what develops with this. But I think no matter what the prosecution does, I mean, do you think the prosecution, if this happened, they're going to deny it? Do you really think the prosecution would risk their bar license to try to bring down Karen Reed? I mean, would they be really that stupid? Because this kind of stuff you can get disbarred for. If you lie to the court and you don't turn this over, I mean, even if they turn it over in a hearing, if this stuff is true in this affidavit and they didn't turn this over to Karen's team, I would say this is something that they could be looking at getting disbarred for. Maybe in Massachusetts they're light on this kind of thing, but most states you'd be looking at some kind of disbarment for doing something this underhanded to railroad an accused. All right, so in this case, they didn't decide new trial. This witness was, it said the government's case depended almost entirely on Talatino's testimony. That's the one who's given the leniency. Without there could have been no indictment and no evidence to carry the case to the jury. Jen McCabe is not that critical as this one here, but I would argue that she is critical in this case because she was the one that called 911. She's the one that was acting as the controller or fixer, according to defense theory, of what was going on that night. She was the one that shepherded Karen around, delayed Karen getting back to 34 Fairview. She's the one that called 911, was doing all that suspicious behavior or whispering, not trying to make it sound like you have a dead cop. She never mentioned Brian O'Keefe's name and never mentioned that he was a Boston police officer and they thought he might be dead. So it's going to be interesting to see here what happens. I think that it'll be interesting to see what this judge does in Kernan's case. But this judge here, if she just like ignores this and says, "Oh well," in the prosecution, are they going to be tempted to say nothing happened if something really did happen? I'd be curious. So Corey saying, how could Bev or Judge Cannoni disregard this? Well, it's the same way she disregards other normal routine requests for a defense expert. So you just look the other way and come up some phony basis to deny it. Only cite some bizarre Massachusetts case law. Mr. Monk's understudy, when the inverted video was exposed in court, Betterow said the case should be over the next day. But what happened? She never said anything to the prosecutors. Yeah, it's like no big deal. You do violations of discovery. That one happened in the middle of trial. That it was a new video that they brought out. The defense had not seen. I mean, that's like unheard of. Absolutely unheard of in a normal court of law in America. Yeah, that would be bounced. Yeah, so this is filed in the Aiden Kearney case. All right, hold on a second. Yeah, there's no grave concerns ever with the prosecution. Momo Shark says, yeah, it's just like they can do no wrong. It's all differential. How much time do you need? Never cuts them off. Okay, Ghost, you're saying at least 20 attorneys are calling this out on YouTube. Great point by Mamacita. So witnesses are getting paid off and they're worried about ARCA and non-disclosure. See what, if this happens, see what hypocrisy there is. Wow. Why won't they answer this? Now, Brendan's not prosecuting Aiden Kearney, so he's not the one that's dragging his feet on answering these discovery requests. But trust me, they all work under the same DA, Morrissey, so they're all talking about it. Yeah, Kokomo, Indiana, second-degree murder, masses, life in prison with possibility of parole after 15 years. So yeah, she'd be doing a minimum of 15. Karen, if she'd be convicted of that. But nobody in their right mind would bring this as a second-degree murder charge, even if they wanted to believe this ridiculous, cooked-up accusation by law enforcement that was brought to the steps of the DA's office there. Jimmy, the entire Commonwealth will be dismantled by the feds. Well, I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think they're going to have different issues coming up with different witnesses. I think there'll be surprises that come out and just absolutely blow up in the prosecution's face. There's going to be some lead bombs dropping in that courtroom, I suspect. Like I say, that's what I'm used to doing. If there's shady stuff going on with the prosecution and I'm defense counsel, the whole thing's gonna crash and burn. It'll never get to a jury. But here you got a judge that's very much can never see wrong by the prosecution and only sees wrong in the defense, it seems like. So her rulings will get this case reversed on appeal if there is any conviction. Yeah, if you have a question, please use the reg emoji. That helps me see it quicker. Danielle DeStefano, sorry, I'm saying your name wrong. CPA is tomorrow half day, and the rest of the day is going to be the hearing with ARCA witnesses. So it's ARCA, however long that takes, and then they'll maybe get to witnesses. But who knows with this judge? It's sort of not structured very well. Yeah, that's what Brittany says as well. Janet says, I'm starting to believe the judge is in on the scheme. AKA the cat lady, thank you. You're asking, I can't put your question up on the screen. And you're asking, what would you want to work harder if you were Karen's attorney and saw a judge was doing this to her, make you angry? Yeah, it'd make me angry. I would fight just as hard no matter what. But when you see the prosecution doing all this stuff and the judge doing all this stuff to deny fair trial, you get your blood boiling and you're thinking, how can I overcome this? You got to change your tactics differently. You got to spend a lot more time building a record for appellate purposes, showing and complaining how much this is a farce and sham justice you're getting on your rulings. Okay, the cat lady, you're saying these cases are important, but they don't care in Norfolk. The world is watching and seeing clear, but they don't care. I think that from what we heard of that neighbor that'd been there for 40 years, I forget his name, Jim something, I believe. But he's saying that basically that along the lines of nobody believes the prosecution's case there, and he's a neighbor for the Alberts. So I think the whole town knows this thing's a sham. It's just that they're in a different town at Dedham, but it's just really coming down to common sense. Any jury should see this, and the way Brendan's conducting himself, not gaining credibility with the jury, in my opinion. Joanne, I agree more. This will be coming out. This is just tip of the iceberg. They just can't help themselves. If they're willing to deny her constitutional rights, what else are they willing to do? Like I said, their goal is to hide the truth. They're just going to say it doesn't matter. All this stuff they're going to find a reason to keep it out, and it's just some trumped up reason. And some radical, extreme Massachusetts case law that is so much anti-defendant, anti-due process, anti-constitutional rights that's all they focus on. But thankfully, Karen has the backing behind her that this can go federal if there is a conviction, which I'm predicting there will not be. Katrina Raven. Sounds like Jen McCabe's extorting the DA's office. Yeah, I mean that's what defense can argue if it even gets to that. Reese says Jen lured John there. We also had Higgins testing him, sending him a text saying if he's showing up with 3 question marks. That's really odd for a guy to send 3 question marks to some guy if he's coming over to some party after midnight. It is an effort to obstruct justice. If that's true, if it's true. Mystery Singer says Jen McCabe researched how's long to die in the cold on 911 call. She called John O'Keefe it. These people are sick and evil. Yeah, this whole thing is really evil. It takes on a new meaning here. Let's see. We got yes, I know about the rock. When was that rock placed there? Was the jury there when that rock was placed, or was it done afterwards? There's a rock that was placed out by the front of the curb there at 34 Fairview when the jury was out there getting a sight scene, and it said Albert's on the rock. It's never a mannequin saying the judge is complicit and wants plausible deniability. That's why she didn't want the evidentiary hearing for them to compel the government to provide metadata. Yeah, that's true, Case. And Jen tried to get Karen and John in separate cars before. That is true. It looks like a setup, doesn't it? Angie's Way, you're saying all these folks must have some big skeletons in the closet for this much allowance of shenanigans. Sandy, if Aiden's judge has a hearing on this, will this force Judge Cannoni to react to it? I don't know. Maybe she'll talk to that judge and say, hey, don't have your hearing until after Karen's trial's over. So it remains to be seen, but you just can't trust anything that goes on up in that courtroom. Or that courthouse, I should say. I don't know this other judge, but I can't imagine he'd be as bad as the one we have for Karen Reed. Kara Laffey, can the defense ask every witness, have you been influenced to be here or say certain things? Well, I think the most of their prosecution witnesses, they're not saying much of the truth when they really need to get in some of those finer details. So they probably would deny it, but you need to have some kind of backup proof. They need to get discovery on what things have been going on with Jen McCabe, trying to influence other people to have some kind of mutiny. If this indeed is accurate, this affidavit. JM, how can the judge allow blood alcohol data that specifically says it's not to be used for legal purposes? Well, because this judge is trying to get a conviction, doesn't care about what's right or wrong on admissibility of evidence. It's more prejudicial if it's not accurate than probative, I would argue. But those kind of things don't matter to this court. Law and Late, you're saying, do I think Brendan's demanded Kiernan's text not only to find consciousness of guilt, but also try to get Kieran's bail revoked to appease Jen McCabe? That's wild. Yeah, maybe that could be it. There could be that connection there. Mr. Searing, you're thinking that feds are waiting to see what happens in Kieran Reed's case before they attack? I hope so. Thanks, Jenna. You say, thank you for keeping it real always and not being afraid to call out the tomfoolery in this case. Sandy, yes, I did see Karen's attorney's motion for discovery for lack of witnesses. I talked about it, I think, 2 shows ago, and the judge said that was a close call. I think it was maybe last night. The judge said it was a close call, even though the rules in Massachusetts required that kind of information to be disclosed. DB, just when you think this case is going to become more corrupt or bizarre, surprise. And I think it's going to continue to do that. Brittany, you're asking what would a normal judge do tomorrow? Like, what's the first step when they all arrive in the morning? Well, no judge would have ARCA show up before they're scheduled to appear as witnesses and do this voir dire and do all this exceedingly detailed demand for any communication with the defense team. It's so ridiculous. This is absolutely a prosecution effort. This judge is acting as a prosecutor. Totally, this is not something that I've ever seen before. You guys can any defense lawyer, he ever seen a judge going to bat like this for a defense? And like I say, I think there's an agenda going on here, and the agenda is to get rid of ARCA from testifying, keep them from testifying completely. That's the best shot they got to try to get Karen convicted. BC Nally, you have a feeling that judge will move forward with voir dire tomorrow? Yeah, I think she will. I think she's going to try to just ignore this. But if she's smart and this is raised, she would get to the bottom of it in a hurry. Kate, you're asking if Aiden's team can't get a judge to take this seriously as a way to bring it to a higher court. Well, it needs to be raised in both courts for Kearney as well as Karen. So if this judge doesn't do anything with it, at least they have a record to develop. Yeah, I think it's tip of the iceberg. Compromise judge says K. Mo Hippie, show me. You're saying they tried to get Aiden's bail revoked on March 18th. That's very recent here. The judge denied the special prosecutor and said no, but they tried to put him in jail before Karen's trial and shut him up. Yeah, so it looks like that also sort of lends itself to what they're saying happened with this Catherine Peter. Maya Rodriguez Sorensen, Esquire, you're saying, has anybody else besides Brennan said the federal investigation is over, and why would he be privy to that information? I don't trust him at all, so I'm disinclined to take his word if it's closed. I don't trust him either. I don't believe a word these guys say. And it sounds like they had this Peter gal make the leaks to the media saying that the feds were over, had this investigation over. Ryan B., what do you think of this going on with this odd cult of people that are 100% convinced that Karen Reed is definitely guilty? It's so odd. Well, I would say that from what I've seen, it makes no sense. People nowadays, it seems like they just go down some kind of rabbit hole and they don't have any common sense at all. And I mean, some of it could be people just trying to make money on a channel, and a lot of it could be jealousy. And I don't know why else this would be so much people don't even care about the fact that Karen's being railroaded. I can see if you're like, if you thought she was guilty, or if you're neutral, you didn't really know enough about it to make a call one way or the other. But then when you start looking at the case, you see how the prosecution and the judge are acting in this case. That ought to offend you, and you ought to want to say, you know what? Why are you doing this if she's really guilty? You're just messing up the case on appeal. So they must really believe they don't have enough evidence to do a normal trial. And if they don't have enough evidence for a normal trial, that means that's consciousness of reasonable doubt. They know they got reasonable doubt written all over this case. Dreamscape, you're asking, do prosecutors seek truth or a conviction? That seems courts are heavily invested in convictions. Going against many prosecutors in various jurisdictions, various forums, I can tell you there's a lot of prosecutors that are about the conviction. They're not about justice and truth, and that's really hard to see. But that's why it's good to have defense lawyers. But even you can get bad defense lawyers that don't fight for their clients. So you can easily get railroaded in the criminal setting if you're innocent. As I've said, all it takes is a bad judge, a bad prosecutor, a bad defense lawyer, a bad member of a jury, or any combination thereof, and a bad witness, a bad cop, let's say, or someone making up false accusations. You get any of those kind of combinations, just one is all it takes, and you can be wrongfully convicted, despite of your innocence. Kayla, you're asking, what do I know about the rock that says Albert on it? I think somebody's probably a Karen Reed supporter probably put that out there just to remind the jurors, hey, this is where the Alberts live, even though they've been gone for a couple years. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to watch. I haven't decided if I'm gonna try to do a live stream on the ARCA guys or not tomorrow. I was thinking I wouldn't, but I don't know. Maybe if I see stuff that I'm really mad about it, maybe I'll jump on and start ranting. Cat lady, whatever went on with the form is extremely suspicious. I agree. I've been saying that all along. When people say, "Well, how did 12 people, not acquit her completely?" I'm telling you, that cop on the jury made a huge difference. I have no idea why he was left on. Unidentified. If convicted, how long will she have to sit in jail before an appeal takes place? I mean, it could probably be like 18 months to 2 years, unless she gets in a federal court quicker. Amber C, you're saying Chief Rafferty put out a press release saying the federal investigation is over. Well, even if they did say it's over, I believe that maybe they just said that to see how these state and city clowns act, thinking they came out unscathed. But here's the thing: keep in mind, just because an investigation's closed doesn't mean they're not targeting individuals. Maybe they came back and said 3 people need to be indicted. So did the information come out and say that the investigation was closed and no one is they're not taking any follow-up action that would include indictments? Yeah, I agree, Kate. The jury needs to know that The Rock was not there when John died. Alan, do I think the judge will retire after this? It all depends how much this comes back on her. She may be forced out. If justice happens, there'd probably be some kind of inquiry, and maybe she'd decide to resign or be forced out with a resignation or retirement packet. Yeah, Jim. Clerk, you're saying Jim was telling him everything. Yeah, he's a great guy. Talks so level-headed and with common sense. Order in the court. Do you think this is why Hank didn't have any witnesses Friday? This didn't come out. Didn't this come out on Monday the 21st? I don't think it was probably related, but Sandy, I think Brennan told Aiden's prosecutor not to respond until the trial's over. I think that would come from even higher. I think they're all circling the wagons with Morrissey as well. Corey, yes, the jury should realize this case 100% reasonable doubt. I'm not. There's a part of me that's thinking this won't make it to the jury. I think this thing may crash and burn. Clayton John, aren't there constitutional provisions for this type of injustice? I think that There are constitutional protections. I've been talking about those on these live streams. But if you have a judge that doesn't follow them, then you have to wait till you go on appeal if there's a conviction. I don't think they're gonna have a bribed appeals judge. I don't think the place is that corrupt. It's never Mannequin says, I feel like something is coming up about Rafferty, and hence that's why she jumped before being pushed. Solner Foster, can Attorney Jackson do anything after trial about the slanderous comments judge made about him in court? Well, I think she may be trying to mess with him after the trial is over. She didn't take any action against him other than lashing out at him and saying he was blatantly misleading the court, or however she said it. Yeah, I don't know who put the rock there. Somebody that supports Karen Reed, I think, would have put it there. Mia, you're asking, did I hear about the juror interview from 1.0? A lot of sense wasn't common. Yeah, it was really strange. Like I say, I pin it on the foreman. Francis Capello, the MSM is pushing the guilty verdict. They all have something to hide. Yeah, that's why I didn't like Karen talking to the media folks. They're not your friend. Drea Traumer, you're saying if true that Brian Alberts is Morrissey's muscle, this makes sense what is happening. Fear. I belong to, you're saying there's not going to be a Commonwealth disaster. The judge's bias will make sure Hank gets whatever he wants. Well, I think when you try to do things to try to get witnesses to get their stories the way you think they should be, and then things unravel in the court and they look like completely uncredible folks that have been busted lying. I mean, look at how many witnesses have been impeached, seriously impeached so far by the defense. They're not doing a good job prosecuting this case. Hank Brennan's trying so hard, it's actually backfiring on him. He's trying to have so much a tightly controlled script with his witnesses, and he's just not doing a good job. You try to control your witnesses as much as he is, and this is what happens. And then you're letting if this stuff about Jim McCabe is true, you're letting her get away with that? Francis again. What did John O'Keefe know? He knew something. They had to get rid of him. It could have been a quick scenario that just went down. He could have tripped. The dog attacked him. Next thing you know, there's some kind of fight that ensues. Hey, we got Kurt here. Howdy, Kurt. I know Kurt's covering this case as well. Yes, that is true. Yeah, my prediction is this is all a setup with ARCA. Judge is going to find a reason to kick him out. We'll probably take it under advisement, not give a ruling right away, and just string the defense along and the ARCA witnesses along, and then come up with some kind of reason that text messages and communications weren't preserved or some kind of completely ridiculous reason like that. Aki Ninja Gal says, you think John O'Keefe was investigating Sandra Birchmore and others? Did he get too close to the truth? I don't think he was involved in the Birchmore case because the feds are the ones that swooped in and grabbed that after you had the Canton police cover up. Pisky, you're asking if John O'Keefe was on the sexual assault unit investigating the death of Sandra, where they were going to tell John not to get any cop involved. No, he was working, from what I have gathered, he's working at the sex offender registration division of the Boston Police Department. So he's dealing with only those who've already been convicted. He's not in a investigator role. So if he's not an investigator role, then he would have no ability to be involved in a case and possibly being a target because they're bringing down somebody for some kind of trafficking offense. All right, let's see here. Jose, you're saying, as Lord, do you think a sworn affidavit has any credibility unless it's from an attorney? Well, the attorneys would have interviewed this person and to emphasize the importance of this being truthful and credible, that they could be charged with perjury, I would think. So, and then they're probably the ones that typed it up, the officer of Betero. So I think that, Beetle, I think Beetle's actually the one that has a local officer because Bettero's down from New York City. But yeah, I mean that I think it lends some credibility to it. It doesn't mean, you could have somebody completely lie it just as well. Kurt, you're saying that in response to Jumi, different people see it different ways. I think one of the key factors is to remember the jury can only assess based on what happens in the courtroom, not on any external knowledge. Yeah, and that's the problem I see here is that the judge is keeping out constitutionally required evidence, such as ARCA, such as FBI retired agent Easter. Hmm. All right, if you got a question, red emoji. You guys got a lot of chat here. GM, you're asking for a quick breakdown exactly what they're doing with ARCA tomorrow. The judge is wanting to do voir dire. She never really fully explained what they want voir dire for, but then subsequent rulings, she's saying that she wants to have all the communications, any type of communication that defense has had with these ARCA experts, these two PhD doctors, and it's just really insulting and ludicrous, and it's disgrace and injustice to be treating these ARCA experts. These guys are the best of the best in the world. They're world class. This ARCA firm, you can't even work there as a expert unless you have a PhD. That's how high class they are. The highest level and most powerful federal agencies, major sports teams, anybody that needs the best of the best, I hire these folks. And you have people like Hank Brennan, and the judge treating them like they're some kind of scumbag, dirtbags from some backwoods, rinky-dink town somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. So this is really, really a disgrace and embarrassment to see this happening in American court. Denise Sanders, I sent you a pic I found on Facebook. If it's legit, do you see how lit up everything was? Let me go look for that 1 second here. Somebody did send me a photo. Is the one across the street? And thanks for emails. Different folks sent me emails after last night. So thank you. I've read them all. I just haven't responded yet. Just going through my emails here right now. I don't see it. Oh, here. No. Still looking here. Stand by. Oh, here. Yeah, here it is. Image 16. Okay, let me try to go. I got it downloaded. Almost there. Stand by, please. No, I'm not. It should be in downloads, but I'm not finding it. So stand by. Marcia Braga, you're saying insanity, pure and simple. That this whole thing is absolutely insane. You're right. Kate, you're saying ARCA's at 1 p.m. apparently. Can you imagine how bad this would be if this wasn't in the worldwide news and we got live TV coverage, court TV, media coverage on this for every witness, the whole trial proceedings? Imagine if this was not on display for the world to see, how bad it would really be. So they're doing this out in the open. They're running this corrupt out in the open. Okay, I'm going to try to resave this. 34 Fairview. Okay, now I'm going to go back. Now I'm trying to present from computer documents. Oh, it's not letting me. I got it saved, but it's not letting me. It's a JPEG. It's not letting me show it. Hold on. Let me see if there's another way I can do it. Yeah. So anyway, what I'm looking for is this picture that the neighbor took. Stand by here. It's really worth seeing. Otherwise, I'm going to be taking this time. So let me see if I can present. Nope. All right. I'm going to try. 1 second here. It's not a PDF, so I'm going to have to forward this. Thanks, Leslie. You offered to PDF it. Yeah, I don't have PDF or, excuse me, Facebook on this computer. I'm not on Facebook anyway, but so I wouldn't be able to access it. Okay, so anyway, hopefully we'll have that in a couple minutes. Back to questions. This never mannequin says, I don't think she'll stop ARCA from testifying, but I think she'll definitely limit them while allowing Brennan to have a cross rehearsal during voir dire. Yeah, I think she's trying to do everything she can to spoon feed stuff for Brennan, but I think she's trying to get them in some kind of collusion with defense counsel, and that's going to be the punishment, that Karen will be punished and they'll be denied either from fully testifying to all their tests. But I don't know. I think she really would like to have them be gutted from testifying completely. Yeah, I think somebody's saying, I just missed that. Chewy, Hank having a second witness admitting to perjury is not exactly a good start. I don't remember if she was a second or not, but yeah, I mean, it's just he's just trying to prop up a dead horse with this prosecution. He's not going to get anywhere unless the whole system's rigged, including some of the members of the jury. But there's no way they'd get 12 people agree that Karen's guilty on this. Tatted, you're asking, why doesn't Judge Canoni seem to mind partaking in this? I don't understand why she seems not care about her reputation. I don't get it. I don't know why you'd look so bad to the world coverage following this case. All right, so all right, going back to see if I got a PDF. There's so many things you got to click within StreamYard here. Okay, Xing out now. All right, now I'm trying to. No. Here we go. Add to stage. All right, here we go. Finally. Thanks, honey. Look at all the lights there. Let me try to put this full size. Wow, look at all those lights. And right up there in the upper left window is where Brian and Nicole Albert were supposedly sleeping. Look how dark that is. You're telling me they had no lights on and that place is a routine course of conduct? No lights interior either. Why didn't Jen McCabe wonder if something happened to her sister? That's her sister's. That's Nicole Albert. Why isn't she worried about their safety? She should be screaming bloody murder for them to come out and see what's going on and make sure they're okay. She should be telling the cops that maybe something happened, or the 911 dispatcher, maybe something's going on. This place looks completely dark. Look at right here. The bottom picture shows more lights, blue lights as well. All these vehicles out there, all the commotion, doors. Think how many doors are opening and closing on these vehicles that make sound. You have all these lights as well. So as it says up here, Brian Albert says he didn't wake up when a screaming lady and first responders were all over his yard. He also wants to believe his aggressive dog, which was in his room and had two windows looking outside, wasn't barking, but it woke up the neighbors at 32 Fairview Road, and this is what they saw. So these are the folks that I believe defense has subpoenaed, and they're going to testify and get these photos introduced. So this is really, really great information for the jurors to see. And because I've already been out now to see the scene there, I think it's a good thing for the close proximity with all these vehicles have to that those double bedroom windows up there on the second floor. So thank you very much for sending those. I'd not seen those before. Have you guys seen those before? These photos? These are golden. Alyssa M, that dog, how's the heck was Chloe not going crazy? Unless they ushered her away because they knew they had to keep a lid on stuff. They had to keep it quiet. And she was ushered away hours earlier. Yeah, the place looks completely red. Keep in mind, those are static red too that we see there. They're not flashing reds. So all these strobe lights and the flashingness of it, that's not what these pictures convey either. So that bedroom would have been lit up like crazy with all these red lights and blue lights flashing into the bedroom. Unless they had blackout blinds, but that didn't come up at trial. But this is a noise factor alone. Sunny Drop, that is not their house. That's the house across the street that has a ring camera. Did not see anything, right? Yeah, there's a higher ranking police officer from Canton that lived across the street from 34 Fairview, and he's the one that said he had a ring fan camera, but they never asked to see it, from what I gather. My understanding is they did not see it. They took his word for it that he didn't film anything. But man, if they had that, that'd really explain a whole lot. Talk says, don't forget KR was screaming. Karen Reed was screaming. Yeah, there was a lot of noise out there, a lot of commotion. Clayton John. Yeah, the fact that there's no lights there, better check if anyone's down there. I just can't believe law enforcement officer would have no exterior lights on in a house. Makes no sense. Something's very fishy about that. Adriana Grant, you're saying I love Sam Fromm. I don't belong here. She's a phenomenal psychologist doing her PhD. She nails Brennan with the latest post. Defense should give them tips on the psychology of Brennan. Rosemary Gallagher, and she knew the doors were unlocked. Yeah, so you have a dark house, doors unlocked. She just go on in and barge into the bedroom after all the emergency crew left. Pretty, yeah, could they make it more obvious? No, I'm not wearing a camo turtleneck. It's just like a camo hoodie, not a turtleneck. All right. uh, okay, says fugitive hunter's house sleeps like a log. No lights on, doors unlocked. Thanks, Leslie. Okay, Tess, you're saying the Albert House is the one to the left of these photos, on the other side is the tree line there next door. Do we have another inverted photo issue here as well? But anyway, there's so many different vehicles along there and so many lights. Even if it wasn't directly across the street or one down, it's very revealing. Just like Juicing Recipe says, wow, I've never seen these pictures, worth more than 1,000 words for sure. Kate says, yeah, it doesn't lock its doors. It don't have a ring camera. Get him a holiday. Brian Albert was licking his wounds and hiding behind the couch. Chloe was already dead. Next day replaced by a stand-in shepherd. I mean, these are your guys' thoughts on what really happened. And so That's kind of stuff you'd think the jury is going to be thinking there in their minds. And so if they don't know what happened, their minds are going to be conjuring up different things like that, and that all is reasonable doubt. All right, let's see. We got here 2 cents says what? Who said Karen Reed had Albert's carpet? I think I heard something about it that they did receive the carpet that was tore out. They it was like on curbside or something, and they somehow nabbed it. I that was so long ago, I can't remember the details of that. Talk saying Jen knew that what was going on. It was a controlled situation. The friendlies and the familiars was on the scene controlling it. No taillights at that time on the scene. Russian Aloha. I don't care if the defense has to hire 100 Cellbrite experts because they need to hammer in the Google search at 12:27 a.m. That search has to be proved. It happened. Case closed. Yeah, that would be a case closed scenario. I think it is a case closed scenario even without it. But that certainly, if you're doing that search at 2:27 a.m. and you got the best experts to nail that down, yeah, it's game over. Case closed. I agree. Eliza Krogan saying on my street, the entire neighborhood would be out, even in snow. Acu Ninja gal, the wind blows. My dogs are on it. Yeah, a lot of people are saying, like Gemma, Chloe left with her daughter Albert and her boyfriend. Mystery singer, yes, Karen has Albert's carpet. Yeah, we haven't heard what they've done with that. Cheryl girl, do I think that judge is being blackmailed? I don't think she's being blackmailed, but she might as in a way, the way she's ruling, it seems like she would be, it doesn't it? Her rulings are just so bad. Her whole demeanor and attitude towards the defense is very troublesome. Yeah, talk is saying Jen didn't go in the house until John O'Keefe's body was gone. Kylie Cosmos, you're saying the noise is always what gets me. If you live in Four Seasons, you know snow amplifies sound, especially on a quiet night like that. You'll never convince me that happened. No one heard it. Right next, we got Yeah, the guy without a camera on, or at least that's what he's saying. It wasn't working right or something. Supplied the Dixie cups and shopping bag. Yeah, and he is a law enforcement officer, a Canton police officer. Mama Sita, why did Jen just call her sister and ask if John was there before driving over in a storm? Common sense. Yeah, that's a good point. Everything seems scripted, doesn't it? Sure, there were sirens, says Tammy Lynn Arts. Yeah, there. You think there would be? I've not heard that come out yet in questioning this trial. Brittany says, I'm sure Brian was peeking out the window, LOL. Erica Sandwall, Karen Reed killed John. I still can't believe you all think over 20 people are in a conspiracy. Well, I would say it's not 20 people in a conspiracy, number one. And number two, you've not been involved in criminal cases like I have. And I can vouch for the fact that it's not that 20 people all get together and they all sit around at a table and say, oh, hey, let's all get together and come up with the same story. You say this, you say that. And it's much more evolving than that. And you have allegiances and loyalties. And I've seen people that'll outright allow felonies to be committed, and they just completely look the other way and help cover it up, even though they had nothing to do with the underlying crime. And we're talking about people in a law enforcement role. If they have people with connections and that it could make them look good for the agency that they work for to help keep the stuff buried, they will help bury something that should otherwise put people in prison. So it's very easy to have people circle the wagons. And so there's all it takes is, especially if you have some kind of a culture like law enforcement culture, and you have folks being told what to find, and you got somebody like Proctor that's friends of the Alberts. Wouldn't that right there bring into question in your mind the fact that there's something shady going on here? Why Proctor, who knows the Alberts and they were in the house, right there, you got a compromised investigation because you haven't had a conflict of interest cleared. Because there's no way Proctor should have been working this case, and he knew it. And the reason he didn't get off the case and say, "Hey, wait a minute, the Alberts and I'm not sure about the Alberts, but the McCabes he knew. So if he knows them, as soon as he knew that they were there in that house, he should have been off the case. So that's how easy it is. And look at all the stuff he botched. So you just don't have full knowledge of how criminal events occur. I've been doing prosecution defense many years, handling thousands of cases in my lifetime. So it's not my first rodeo on looking at conspiracies. Amber C. Screaming is about what gets me at the scene. Oh, hey, Christina, you're saying I don't think Jen left the car with Karen. It was Matt McCabe who had her phone and went in the Albert's house. Her watch stayed, showed no steps, but her phone did. Yeah, I've heard that before. I mean, that is a possibility. Okay, you're saying I think Brian left the house with his dog and fight wounds. Phoebe Beach, did the lights come on once Jen was inside, or did Jen walk upstairs to the bedroom in complete dark? My understanding is she walked upstairs in complete dark. She might have used her phone light or something like that, but my recollection is there was no lights that ever were turned on when she went up the stairs. And who knows, did she really go up the stairs? Were they right hiding in, greeting Brian and Nicole as soon as she walked in the front door? Are they like ducked down behind the couch or something? Sandy says, Carrie and Jen, calm as cucumbers. Yep. Yeah, bring in the neighbors, says Sherry Ann, to testify how loud it was. Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff you can do. But with Brennan and the judge, I've never seen this where you have no idea of normal stuff that could happen to present a defense is going to be allowed in this kangaroo court. Hellfish Haven, you're saying that 34 Fairview have motion sensor outdoor lights on, intentionally set off that night. We don't know, but I've been saying it'd be nice to know if that what their normal routine was with regard to any exterior and interior lights. I bet you that's the only time it's been ever seen with no lights on, inside or out. Crystal McAtee, yeah, obviously the trolls that never watched the trial and have no sense. Well, they also be paid to do that kind of stuff. Maybe the Commonwealth is paying for trolls. Amber, see, I just got a vision of Julie Albert crawling on the floor to lock the front door for Jen. Today's 2 cents. Some pictures are being introduced as accurate, but graphic analysis online show pics have been edited as evidenced by smudged pixels. How's this illegal? Well, if it fairly and accurately just demonstrates what it purports to be, and it's different though if it's something that's they're trying to indicate evidence against the accused, then that is a serious matter. If it's just like a picture of 34 Fairview, I don't know whether there'd be any altering of that, but maybe they're trying to make the yard look bigger than it is, or if there's something like that, then yeah, that would be some kind of corrupt Brady violation there. Mama C says, yeah, investigators knock on the door across the street to ask for solo cups, but not 34 Albert's house. But keep in mind, the guy across the street was a cop also, so they knew him being there. So that's maybe why they did that. But they probably also knew about Brian being right there as a cop. I'm sure they knew Brian was there as well, living there. That was his residence. Clayton John, everything. Commonwealth is like a bamboozler. Everything's rigged. Yeah, it's scary how much his place is rigged up there. Fugitive Hunter leaves his door unlocked. Jen is still submitting her updated timeline to Brennan, says Aki Ninja Gal. Sweet Tooth Mary, it's not game over if they have an uneducated jury who doesn't pay attention. I'm thinking there's a chance this case is going to implode and they're never going to make it to a jury. I can see stuff unraveling and blowing up in the prosecution's face that even the judge can't fix it for him. Oh, hey, Christina, you're also saying Jen's watch steps and her phone steps don't match while at the scene. Matt McCabe was there on dash cam. He took her phone. That could be the case. All right, Stacy Q, you're saying TV just posted again, worth looking at. I do not have Facebook on this. I'm not on Facebook, period, but I don't know what he posted. If somebody can PDF an email to jurytrialmentor@gmail.com, I'll take a look at it. Law and order. Physical evidence unreliable. Testimony inconsistent. If not falsified, lead detective fired in disgrace. One second here. Okay, so I got something from John here, my brother. Thanks, John. It says here, Kate Peter denies the damning allegations against her in an affidavit signed by a source she trusted for almost a year. One of the things she is denying is having influence with the DA's office at meeting Michael Morrissey with Jennifer McCabe on March 16th, 2 days before Robert Cosgrove filed a motion to revoke my bail. Cosgrove had assured us on March 14th that he was not going to revoke my bail. Then on March 16th, the meeting happened, and in new text messages, Ms. Peter brags to source that she sent a lot of emails to Cosgrove that day. She knew my bail was going to be revoked more than an hour before I did, and at that hearing, Cosgrove all but admitted that he changed his mind about revoking my bail after becoming aware of new videos sent to him by Ms. Peter. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so there you have it. Stephanie showing, you just said that, mistrial. All right. Lauren Muster, you're saying, how do you donate money to me? I really hate using super stickers and would rather have his Venmo because I hear they take 30%. I don't need your guys' money. I did turn on super chats recently just because it helps the algorithms, but I do not need your money. If you guys want to give any money to any cause, Karen Reed and her family and the defense team, I'm sure can use whatever you can afford. So, yeah, thanks for offering that, Lauren. But we're fine. We don't need your money, but that's very kind and sweet of you. Oh, hey, Christina, your Gans saying Jenna went in the house. Her watch steps weren't moving when her phone was taking tons of steps. Okay, that's something that could come out at trial as well. Francis Capello says, I think that Brian Albert called Berkowitz personally, then he called Proctor and Tully. The fix was in at the jump. I mean, it could happen that quick, a rolling series of calls and butt dials and things of that nature. And next thing you know, you got complete cooperation with a guy that's friendly to the McCabe's, and the fix is in. Island Girl, you're saying she's taking orders from the politician that appointed her. I mean, that's what it looks like. All right, next we got the other Karen asking if I defending the case, would your strategy different anyway? They're doing a really great job, and I don't want to act like I'm trying to rain on their parade or anything. I would just do something different. Like I said before, I would not rely on a third party culprit defense that gives them an opportunity to try to pick it apart more. Just instead of saying who did it in the house, just say people in the house have all acted very suspicious. They're all hiding the ball. They're all acting guilty. And you got so much evidence, especially with Jen McCabe and her 911 call, that obviously there's no burden on the defense to say who did it. You don't have to prove reasonable doubt who did it if you're going to use third party culprit. But to get the instruction, you sort of have to have some kind of proof, like by a preponderance of the evidence, according to this judge in Massachusetts. So it's really ridiculous. I mean, you could say whatever you want. You could say, some alien came down and did it or something stupid like that. If you want to present a stupid defense like that and that's the third party culprit, why would Massachusetts care and prevent you from doing that? It's just everything's so tightly controlled there in Massachusetts. Really bizarre. Can I play Jim again? Let's see here. For those of you who don't know, yesterday I played a video. I'm going to try to play it again here. All right, hold on just a second. Not sure. Not sure how I did that. Present or invite, share screen. Oh, here, this might be it. No, that's not it. One second here. I think this is it. Here we go. Stand by. Gonna move this screen here. This is really great interview here. Right here, now I got to go back to this other window. So here we go.
Questions about the neighborhood and on the case. Take a listen.
It's bad news. She's definitely innocent. There's no question about it. When you look at his arm, a car couldn't do that to an arm. No way. All you got to do is look at his right arm. There's no way a vehicle would do that to an arm. Explain to me how it could happen. There's just no way. Even the plow driver said he came by at 2:30 and saw nothing. People leaving the party saw nothing. 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, they saw nothing. How can you not see a body lying near the flagpole?
Is there any animals in the area? Any big animals? Have you ever had any problems with pets being lost?
Friends of ours were bitten by Chloe.
Wow.
And in fact, they're on the witness list. I don't know if they're going to be called, but they are on the witness list. We know about them. And, I mean, the guy sells his house. He puts in a whole new basement floor. Suddenly, his cell phone is gone. Suddenly, Higgins' cell phone is gone. Come on. That's all innocent? No way.
Yeah. And that's not even talking about all the weird activity of everybody else in the house that night. So. All right, so let's see here. Getting some emails from y'all. Let me see. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Going back. I don't have time to look at what you all have sent me. I'll check it out later. All right. So anyway, that was Jim Malver. He's a neighbor there of the Alberts for 40 years. Granted, the Alberts moved a couple years ago, but I mean, what a wonderful guy to have as a neighbor. He's so honest, love him. Yeah, he's just so sweet of a guy. Flightless is saying, I think the neighbors are sick of the shenanigans. Yeah, I would think so. I mean, can you imagine living there and having to deal with this? You got a town that corrupt, a DA's office that corrupt. We love Jim. He knows what's up. The Alberts are watching in the dark. That's what I'd be arguing if I was the defense counsel on this case. Peeking out the windows. Hey, what do you all think? Have you guys seen this issue about from the phone that was left on Jen's phone in the car? You hear, I'm being told you hear Jen saying, They're on their way. She's whispering that. I can't hear that whisper. Can you, any of y'all hear that whisper that she's talking about? Is she's calling her sister and whispering to her sister and Brian that, hey, they're on their way? In other words, hey, I've called 911. Get ready. They're going to be here pretty soon. Maybe you need to run in the bed and act like you're sleeping or so, whatever she might have told them if that was indeed the case. But did y'all hear that on the tape at all, or on the phone call we have a video recording of? Yeah, that's it. Skook, you're saying Karen dropped her phone. So her phone, she called John's phone number and his voicemail picked up what was going on in the car. Yeah, that was it. Allegedly, maybe saying, yes, we got to hear the boosted audio. Does anybody have that? Can you please send it to me? Miss Holmes 66. And if they got that as well, that is huge. That she's even whispering more quietly after she's off the 911 call. Gilly saying, yes, sir, I hear it. Can somebody let me know if you can send me that to me right now? I'll play it right now. Well, I don't have it. So if you guys, I remember trying to listen and hear the copy that we were listening to was not good enough. Okay, Kylie, you're saying with $20 earbuds. Mike, whose headphones you're saying, she says like nobody is coming out from memory. It's never mannequin. They need to clean up the audio, would really help defense. Yeah, if I was a defense, I would definitely get an enhanced video version of that. That is right there. Proves that is even more direct proof than a 911 call, I think. I mean, those two things in tandem, it's open and shut case even more so. Thanks, Amber. You're saying a streamer cleaned up the audio so it can't be used in court. Well, but yeah, but the one that the feds, if the feds are the ones that obtained that and not I don't know if the Commonwealth obtained it, but that is huge if that is indeed the case. If you can definitely hear that. Corn Pope, you're saying all I could hear is okay because the wipers. Well, just the fact there's whispering going on, it's very much an indicator that there's some other agenda going on. All right, my email, you can just send it to for this channel, jury trial mentor, mentor @gmail.com. Microdot's channel has it. Jury trial mentor @gmail.com, please. Looks like a couple of you might be sending it. Let me go check my email here. All right, standing by here. All right, let me take some more questions. English Kate. There's so much evidence that shows the witness clan have lied, including Jen's daughter and where she drove to afterwards. Karen's phone was on the back seat. Proctor's missing pension. It's very hard to hear. That's what it was when Leslie and I tried to listen to it, or did listen to it. We just didn't hear anything audibly being said. Maybe just the word okay or something like that. All right, just standing by here. Let me see. Okay, yeah, all Commonwealth stuff is hard to see and hear. Yeah, especially if it helps the defense. Yeah, so if you need earbuds, then it's probably not going to convey well through here, but we'll give it a shot. Southern Mom, I'm curious if that witness mix-up that caused the court to end early has anything to do with some witnesses being hesitant to testify as the defense indicated. That could very well be the case. That makes more sense than anything else. All right, going back to my email to check that. Thank you, Sherry from Australia. Oh, wow, I got 4 of you sent it. Okay. Okay. Okay, I got different ones. Okay, stand by. All right, I'm going to play this one here. Now, it says the Jen McCabe 911 call, so okay, 337. All right.
Yes, I need someone to come to 34th Yearby Road, Vietnam. There's a man passed out in the snow. Yeah, I don't know why he did that. I can put that. Okay, I know. Where's the blanket? I don't see blanket, Terry. Yes, I need some.
Okay, slow up to me a second.
John is 6 years old. Terry.
Listen to that.
I know, I'm on the phone with Andrew. I know, honey, I know. Yeah, get off. Sorry, you gotta get off.
Thank you. All right, so wow, listen to all that screaming. Let me back this up. Somebody said at 337 is a key point. Going to 325. It's true. Yeah, I'm not picking up on that. She's muttering something. I just couldn't pick up on that. Anybody else? What are you hearing on better versions? Yeah, same with me here, 340. Don, Amelia, you're saying no one's coming out of that house. I'm not picking up on that. Kat, why isn't Karen's the only one upset at the scene? Why aren't others? Those are really loud screams. Yeah, they knew in the house. There's no doubt they knew in the house what was going on outside. She's mumbling. She doesn't sound frantic, scared. What about what's going on in her sister's house with her husband, Brian? Thank you, Ms. Holmes, 66. Thank you. Marines 100, Karen was frantic as any of us would be, except old Jen McCabe, calm as cucumber, not shocked and horrified. That's it right there, folks. That's reasonable doubt. It's game over. Open and shut case. Defense doesn't even need to present any evidence. You just hear that alone. That's reasonable doubt. Now, I'm not advocating they do that. And obviously, I wouldn't do that if I was in a trans case. But that just proves right there the mannerisms shows the motives. Well, it says someone's coming out to help was what cleaned up version said. Scorpion saying, I thought I heard don't come out. I don't know. That redhead says no one's coming out to help. So anyway, either way, it's again highly suspicious behavior. I wish they would be able to enhance it with a expert, but then again, the judge doesn't allow experts that help the defense. So an expert is able to produce a really good, accurate sound quality of what Jen was saying. Again, the judge would find some reason to keep it out. Okay, Rosemary Geller, I heard, I believe Microdots has it. Okay, that one I think was not Microdots. So is it worth going to Microdots? Let me go back to my email. Okay, let me see here. Somebody, Lori sent me one, but I don't know which. Yeah, this one. All right, I'm trying to look. Okay, hold on here. Okay, Microdots. Thank you from Amber. Let me try to present that. "17-second clip." Let me back it up here. Yeah, it sort of sounds. Someone's coming out. Two, one. Yeah, it sounds like maybe someone's coming out to help me. I don't know. What do you all think? One more time here. It sounds like someone's coming out to help me. I don't know. What do you all think? But wow, that's really damning. Yeah, people, and you're saying LESB, honestly, shame on anyone who has no sympathy for this girl experienced that night, and since you can hear despair in her voice. I mean, she is frantic. She's frantic. And you got Jen McCabe whispering in the car. Leslie's verbal pharmacy. I believe that timing has been debunked, and what she's heard saying is from the 911 call. I think Microdots took down his video. Not sure about that, but why is she whispering? Look at the extent of that whispering. Oh, hey, Christina says Matt was also acting like Karen was crazy. I think that's why Jen and Carrie are brushing her off. They actually all thought Karen was being over dramatic. Matt knows what happened. Yeah, Jen P, you give an example. Your son got hit by a car on his bike a few blocks away. They called me from the ambulance. I freaked out and took off running barefoot. I didn't put my shoes on. Yeah, I mean, that's a normal kind of thing people do when they're freaking out because they're worried about a loved one in some kind of jeopardy, tragic situation. And there was none of that from Jen McCabe. None of that from the Alberts in the house. Corn Pops in. VH has it. Let me see here. There's another one. Hold on a second. Oh, Veilhammer. Okay, I'm going to play that one last, and then we'll go from there. All right, trying to load this here. Stand by. All right, I was able to get it finally. Stand by here. All right, I'll just jump ahead to the closer to the end here. Let's go to 318. All right, here it is coming up. In any event, Adriana Garant, Hank is producing a movie in his head, so calm, it's almost psychotic. Defense needs to break his stride. He's playing a nasty game. Grace face could be no one is coming out to help, or no one come out to help. Jen did say on the 911 call that John got out of the car. She did say that. All right, just jumping through some last comments here. Yeah, Microdots is amazing. If you guys haven't seen any of their videos, wow, that's really high production quality. Mannequin, you're saying if Commonwealth can produce a cleaned up taillight pics and dash cam, why can't defense? Well, because that's what the kind of judge you have here. Thanks for multiple folks send me the link. Thanks for doing that, everybody. Much appreciate that. Yeah, really wish they could get enhanced version and get that admitted into evidence. Albert, you're saying you're cool and calm and collected during a crisis while relaying info on a 911 call. You lose it after it's said and done. Okay, well, would you really whisper on a 911 call? Would you not give them proper information? Would you not tell them it's a law enforcement officer that's down? There's all those kind of details that were just non-forthcoming. And there's no even a request of how soon you come and send an ambulance. Hey, he's about to die. No, it's just some guy passed out in the snow. She doesn't tell the dispatcher that, oh, it's somebody I love. It's Boston Police Officer John O'Keefe. Mannequin, oh my gosh, she says someone's coming out to help us. Ashley says, I just sent you a microdot clips from a call with a tow truck driver who says there was no damage on Karen's cars are now implying. Well, that is interesting. Let's see if I can go there. Let's see here. It's not come in yet. I'm looking for it. Ashley, is that coming under your name? Yeah, Kate, that was my understanding. This call that we're trying to get best audio version, the call came after 911 and she was telling her sister someone's coming out to help, or words to that effect. Yeah, PJ, we already played that tonight. If you go back on rewind later. Okay, let's see here. It's not coming in. Alan Jackson's president. Pause. I'm confident the defense will prove video manipulation this time. Did anyone else notice when Hank introduced waterfall video, the quality was terrible, like the brightness turned up, it's all white. Yeah, it didn't seem like a good quality. I remember that. English Kate Jackson has to hammer Jenna why she didn't bang on the door to get help. Fierce like Frida, a few times you called 911, you were very frantic and wasn't making sense. It was even a stranger that was hurt and I was having a hard time. Maria Bankston, you're saying if Jen called her sister and no one is answering, why didn't she tell the police no one is answering in the house? They might be injured. Absolutely. Huge red flag there. Yeah. It's this whole issue, I think it's just the truth is going to come out, just like Jen McCabe called Carrie Roberts the morning she's testifying just to wish her good luck. I mean, those are the kind of gifts you get at a trial when you know you got corrupt business going on the other side. Okay, there's your message again. When was that? 12:09. I'm at 12:15. I will play that if I can see that here. It's not. Did you send it to Jury Trial Mentor? I'm not seeing it. Let me see what's going to spam. Oh, yeah. Went to spam. No, it's not there. Oh, wait, hold on. I think I removed it from spam. So, no, it's not showing up. All right. Well, it's not going to the junk either. So, all right, let's see. I'm going to take we've been on, wow, 2.5 hours. I'm going to go ahead and take just one more question and we'll sign off. Text, what you're saying, someone's coming out as code for Proctor. I don't know if they knew Proctor was going to show up that night. I don't think they had time to plan that. Boss investigation says there's a guy in the snow. There's a guy, a man that I love in the snow, but take your time because the guy's really dead. Okay, she's whispering to her sister, probable cause. Oh my gosh. Maureen McLaughlin, you're saying sad state of affairs we have in Massachusetts. Yes, you do. Very sad state of affairs. All right, I'm going to go a little bit longer here. You're saying Jen McCabe has a lot of explaining. Do you think her testimony cross will take a full day? I think it will. I think her cross should take a full day or more. All right, let's see. We have yeah, okay. The longer Jen is on, the more she cracks. So that's something I do when I'm cross-examining somebody. I know they're lying. I just drag it out as long as I possibly can. And I cover every details. I go in usually sequential order on things, but I also do circular questioning where I come back and ask the same thing in a different way. Excuse me. And that way I lock them in. And once I get them really locked in, then I go in for the jugular. So it's good technique, and liars can't fill in the details. So Jen McCabe isn't going to remember all these details, and she's going to be under a pressure cooker. And I think she's going to fail miserably on that witness stand. Corn Pope, you're saying you'll find the tow truck driver. Just give me a second car. Okay, I'll play it. If somebody can send it to me, I'll play that here. PJ saying I have an excellent ear. She says, "Don't come out." All right, thanks, Sherry from Australia. All right, I'm looking for the tow truck driver. I want to see this tow truck driver testimony on. Oh, here it is. Thanks, Ashley. It came in finally. Red Pepper Flake, thanks for sending me. You're saying there's some kind of debunked Jen McCabe whisper call. So this is a JPEG? Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. OT. All right, let me go back. I'm not sure if I can do a JPEG, but let me try here. All right, downloaded it, and I'm not seeing a JPEG. So let's see. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it won't let me. It won't let me play it here on my Mac. PJ, you're saying Jen's making a round Saturday. She was spotted at the DA's office just for a trial. She was spotted at Proctor's house too. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, go ahead, send it. Anything you need to send to me, jury trial mentor, mentor at gmail.com. Okay, Cornpub, you said you found it. Yeah, if it's a JPEG, I won't be able to play it. So hopefully. All right, microdots. Okay, that's on X. So let me go back. Close out that window. Okay, here we got tow truck driver. See what he has to say.
Police, the state trooper told you to bring it there, right?
Yeah.
And there was Canton, Dayton police there, and they still brought it to the Canton barracks, right?
Well, there was Dayton police at the address in Dayton, and then the state police.
Her mother's house, right?
Her mother's house, yeah. The state police. I followed the state police all the way to the Canton Police Department, and then we unloaded it at the Canton Police Department. But Dayton didn't go to Canton. Dayton just stayed in Dayton.
They escorted you there, huh?
Yep.
That's crazy. Do you think there's anything of a cover-up in that?
Well, I'll be anything's possible, but I mean, because a couple of I think she hired like an investigator or something, because they came down and they talked to me right after I told it, like a couple weeks after.
Yeah.
And I mean, they asked me what happened. I explained it to them, but I mean, I didn't see any damage on that. I didn't know what was going on. They just told me to tow it, and they were there. I didn't know anything about the case or anything. And then, I found out later about it. I saw it on the news.
Well, state policeman says, hey, tow this car, the Diamond Towing, tow this car. You want their business, but you're going to take it. The state policeman, what are they going to do? Arrest you after they tell you? You take it. You're getting paid, right?
Yeah, I towed it right to the police station, though. I didn't tow it to my shop or nothing.
No.
From that house right to Canton, and they were with me the whole time.
Nice. Wow. But no damage on the car.
I think there's more to that story than what they're saying, because I don't see how they're saying what, she backed into him or something?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, obviously, but and even if she did, would the window, the back brake mirror break? Probably not.
I didn't see no damage on it.
No, you guys inspect them like rent-a-car companies. You guys.
If there was any damage on that car, they would have took pictures of that car in the driveway before anything.
Amen. Yeah. Hey,
Right?
this is great.
If you go to any kind of scene and there's a car there that's got damage, they should be able to put those pictures of that car in her mother's driveway with the snow on the ground, because it was snowing like hell that day.
Yeah.
They should have pictures of that.
I'm glad. I'm
And if they don't,
glad you're on my show.
I personally didn't see no damage on that back car.
Wow.
Not what you like, Manny calls you. Hey, grab a car from the auction. You look around, see what it's got on it. That way, when Manny yells at you and says, "Hey, you got a dent," what do you tell him?
I had already had the dent. If it had a lot of dent,
Hey, you would have a picture of that dent, wouldn't you?
Right.
You, if you saw a dent on a car you were towing, you would not take a picture.
What's that?
If you would call to tow a car, you would, if you saw a dent or any damage, you would take a picture, right?
Take a picture of it. Right, I would take a picture of it.
Okay.
And the state police would have took a picture of that car long before they called me to go there if it had damage on it. You know what I mean?
Amen.
They would have took a picture of that thing right in the driveway if it had damage on it. I don't think it did.
All right, brother. I appreciate the
All right.
interview.
All
Later.
right, Jeff. Have a good night.
Bye.
Wow, thanks so much, Ashley. So that's something that, assuming we got the right tow truck driver and all that, yeah, defense needs to call this guy. Very critical evidence here. It sounds like a legitimate call. Don't know. We don't know the guy's name, but like Kay says, tow companies take photos to not pay insurance. That is true. Monique is asking, you heard this last year. Why didn't they bring him as witness? I don't know. Yeah, don't know about that. Joanne, you're saying the rock was placed there before the jury was to view to throw him off, thinking, hey, maybe he hit his rock. Yeah, we don't know when it was placed there. I assume it was not there when the jury showed up. I can't imagine that not being objected to. Lawn lit, no damage to the car. We need him to testify. Don't know why he didn't testify, but Gray Space, you're saying he's on the list? No, Lucky's not the tow truck guy. He's the snowplow guy. All right, there's tow companies on YouTube because of videos they tow. Mamacita plus the cop from the parent sound said it was only cracked, not shattered. What's anybody know the tow truck driver's name? You guys are saying he's on the list. Yeah, that Be in Trouble 31 videos. I saw some of those when they first came out, but I wasn't really getting much out of it, so I stopped looking at the additional ones. Yeah, I don't know who Jeff Leary is. He's some kind of a media guy up there. Thanks, Great Space. You're saying his name is Patrick Haggerty from Horizon Towing. Thank you. The waterfall video clearly shows how the fight began just before they left. It's a must. Albert, you're saying if no damage to the Lexus makes Karen read a liar since she said the taillight was broken, including the bulb. Well, he said he didn't notice any damage and it was snowing out, so it probably was covered up a little bit, but it was damaged as much as the Commonwealth is saying it was, then he definitely would have noticed that. So I think that's the explanation for that. Yeah. Bonnet, you're saying that taillight had a crack. It's a far cry from calling it shattered in pieces. Ashley 66, defense was overconfident, should be found not guilty, and didn't hardly call any witnesses. I think that's some of it. I think they were thinking, we got ARCA, that's pretty much game over. Why do we need to worry about anything else really in much detail? But Breenan and Two Potted Plant says, any chance Judge Bias starts to play nice with the defense after all this has come out? You know, if she was smart, she would start playing by the rules, but who knows? She might double down and just throw the book at defense and just try to shackle them even more. Anything's possible in this crazy land up there. Yeah. Janine, you're saying Morrissey said 11 people said John didn't come into the house in the hostage video where he's reading a script like he's a hostage. 11 people also didn't see him in the yard. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, Ghost says Lexus engineer from corporate world would be an ideal Lexus expert. Yeah, actually, you know, taillights and stuff like that, they're not made by Lexus. All that stuff they sub out. So it'd probably be like these downtrace subcontractor that would build the taillights that would really be the experts on that. Professor Phil Bell, 50 plus years as a physicist. I'm appalled at the incompetence of investigators who would not realize there is no law in physics that would make the prosecution's hypothesis possible. This is a farce. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Professor Phil Bell. I totally agree with you. It's almost like a common sense thing. The way the Trooper Paul testified that the arm was hit and he'd spin into some kind of orbit, went 30 feet. I mean, they don't even know where he was hit. They're not even sure where he landed. All this stuff is just garbage in, garbage out nonsense. So thank you for your expertise there. Well, keep in mind, investigators are relying on people like Trooper Paul, who only has an associate's degree. You, as a physicist, obviously you have advanced degrees and super specialized knowledge. I mean, you're just talking about some few 40-hour courses that Trooper Paul went to. But I believe this time they're going to try to find somebody that has your type of background to say, like, oh, no, this is what we think happened. But nobody can put the scene back together. Nobody can describe what happened because they didn't take any photos. They didn't have any video. They're just guessing. It's just wild guessing. And how can you make the case stick when you're just guessing? All they are is guessing, and they're trying to package it as being, this is what happened. TB owns Spanky. Why do you think that the FBI backed off? In my opinion, there's no way they can prove all this corruption. They can get emails, texts, etc., but that'd be too big, too many high officials. Well, if you don't have anybody flipping from inside the house, you're not going to be able to get any proof. There's no direct proof in text and stuff like that. All this is circumstantial evidence that something went down, and so that's enough, not enough to make arrests at this point. Oh, Gray Space, thanks for sharing your expertise. You're in astrophysics grad school, so you don't have as many years, but you've been yelling the same thing for a year. Yeah, it's Brian Shaughnessy. Thank you for your email the other day. I haven't responded back to you, but thank you for your email. I think you're in Hawaii. Yeah, that's true. Probably Lexus parts made in China. Although, no, Lexus actually made in Japan, or else a lot of them made in Canada, not China. And then I believe some in the United States as well. Yeah, gray space. The ARCA guys honestly would be the experts, not their scope is wide. I mean, they're as good as it gets, right? In fact, Professor Bell, if you want to shoot me your contact info, if you want to be a guest on the show, let me know. You don't have to show your face. You could just testify over the phone if you wanted, or through the StreamYard servers. I could just email you a link and you could testify that way. Carrie Lee says you emailed me enhanced audio of Jen's calls to Nicole. There was way more than one. Thanks for all your support tonight. You guys have sending me emails and whatnot, and also emails of support. I've not responded back to any emails in multiple weeks here, but I appreciate your support. And I mean, collectively, there's so much people can bring together because nobody owns all this data and information. And I certainly don't represent myself as being the best source of information for every single possible minute detail in this case. But I can just tell you from all the many hours and weeks and months I've been looking over this case that there's just no way that this is a case that should have been brought to trial. There's absolutely way more evidence that Karen didn't do it than she did do it. Kelly, how are they bringing in the temperature piece in this time? I keep hearing about temperature. I'm not familiar with phone temperatures. Apparently, they're trying to use the phone temperature of John's phone to try to establish a timeline, whether it's in or outside. I don't know the details on that. I don't know how you can tell what the temperature of phone was at a previous time of day. Mystery Singer, there's a mountain evidence proving John was not hit by a car, but was beaten and blunt force trauma from raised surface. That's what I totally think is just plain day common sense. Mamacita, no, if the judge keeps the ARCA experts out, there's no replacement. The Leyland temperature out of the phone is not as important as injuries to his body. Anyone could have had his phone. I agree. Okay, partial cremation. You're saying microdrops. Remove the video because someone debunked it. Jen McCabe says something's coming out of his nose. Okay. I don't know what the ground truth of that is, but again, definitely some whispering. Absolutely whispering. And she didn't get out of the car to go see him up close. Yeah, battery drain to cold is real quick. Give them a holiday. Both Commonwealth and Defense will use the battery temperature. It'll be interesting to see if they both have different interpretation. I guess are they going by how quick the battery died because of its being too cold? That's how they're establishing a timeline. Today's 2 cents. That's for John's phone temperature. That's why Hank kept pointing out it was in Carrie's pocket. Little Miss Red Velvet. Oh, so much reasonable doubt throughout this trial. Absolutely. All right, let's see. Gosh, we're still going on here, and it's almost 3 hours. So thanks, Linda M. You're saying what happened to Higgins' Jeep? I'm not tracking that. Anybody else know what happened to the Jeep? Great space. Battery temperature is tracking the phone data, I guess. Gemma, phone temp is junk, especially since she's using Waze and possibly other apps that make the phone run hot. Mandy, you're saying didn't it only drop to like 43 degrees? You're talking about the phone, I believe, because temperature that night got down to 12. Mary, you're saying, and it regarded a change in temperature as to whether he was inside versus outside. Apparently, when that temp change occurred, if it did, yeah, I don't know. Do phones track the temperature 24/7? I've never heard of that. Corn Pope, you're saying Jen's heart rate data is missing for all the relevant time periods. That is a big clue right there. Jay's 2 cents. I wish defense would put Jen McCabe's neighbor on the stand because she said Jen said she needed an attorney on the 30th. The neighbor said, "Why do you need an attorney?" I had not heard that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take one more question, sign off here. Straight out of Canton. Some of us are wondering what about Higgins Jeep? Why do they want to place it in front? Not sure about that one. Amber C, I'm looking forward to see if they have video of Higgins arriving at the police department at 1:30 and what he was wearing and driving. Yeah, him going there, another really strange, bizarre circumstance. So, all right, with that, folks, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. You all have a great week, and I will be back tomorrow. And not sure if I'll jump on during the ARCA testimony or not, but I'll be on tomorrow night for a wrap up and recap for the day, and it should be pretty pretty bizarre and exciting to see what happens. Hopefully we get some justice tomorrow for Karen Reed. So thanks for all your support and all that you do. And thanks again for the help tonight. All you guys have sent me the different link up. So take care.